Hey everybody, I'm B. Jamine, aka The Terrible Australian of Supermaster.com, and welcome to my video review of London Has Fallen, which is the sequel to the 2013 action film Olympus Has Fallen. So let's get right into it. Now, I should say right off the bat that I wasn't really the biggest fan of Olympus Has Fallen. I did actually write a written review for that film when it first came out, so I'll put the link to it in the show notes so you'll be able to check it out over at Supermaster.com. So I guess, long story short, I wasn't the biggest fan. I found it kind of a very sort of average action film. I can understand why a lot of my friends and all that and fellow film critics really enjoyed it, but I don't know, something about it just didn't really work for me. So I didn't really have the biggest sort of expectations when it came to the sequel, London Has Fallen, which pretty much has most of the original cast back, except for it does have a change in directors. Antoine Fuqua, who directed Olympus Has Fallen, didn't come back to direct this one. Instead, he is in the director's chair. That is taken over by Babak Najafi. I probably butchered his name wrong, so forgive me if I have. So he's taken over the director's chair, and pretty much just still had the same kind of, even behind the scenes, the script is still written by the same writers behind Olympus Has Fallen, and produced by the same producers and whatnot. So, other than sort of the director, there's sort of a new it's pretty much like the same cast and crew, pretty much back together again for this sequel. Like I said, I didn't really have that many high expectations for the sequel. I thought, okay, hopefully I'll go in, be pleasantly surprised, and maybe it might actually be better than the first one. Unfortunately, though, I don't. This one actually makes Olympus Has Fallen look great by comparison. This is a really bad sequel, and it does suffer from Die Hard 2 syndrome, in the same fact that you kind of can't help but feel like how can the same thing happen to the same people twice? Like, at least with Die Hard 2, John McClane sort of brought a bit of self-referential humor to the whole situation when it came to that aspect of the sequel. But this one, it doesn't do that, and instead it does feel a lot bigger than the first one, because since the first one was set in Washington DC, mostly at the White House, this one is sort of spread out all over London, so you get different air. So the action is like all across the city. But that being said, though, it's just a really bad sequel. I think one of the main things that this film, just right from the very beginning, for at least the first hour or so, I just found it at times the film was in really bad taste, and not sort of deliberate or anything like that. I guess in sort of like, now that we're sort of living in a sort of in this day and age where terrorism is a big thing that is happening in our world. And while sort of watching the film, particularly during the sort of the big sort of attack on London sequence, where the bad guys in the film, the terrorists, are attacking sort of some of the world leaders at various spots around London, and there's gunfire and explosions and stuff like that. And sort of watching that, I just felt very troubled and very uneased. And I guess sort of living now in a post-Brussels world, and as well as other sort of in a world where there's so many terrorist attacks are happening in the world right now. To me, the film just didn't feel fun for me at all. It just made me feel kind of depressed, and it didn't help the fact that, and it actually, watching this film actually made me kind of angry as well, not because of what the bad guys or the good guys or whatever's happening in the film. It's just, I don't know, it felt like, to me, this film was in very bad taste. And it just really rubbed me the wrong way throughout the whole course of the film. And even more so, the character of Mike Banning, who played by Gerard Butler, he comes off a bit of a dick, more so in this one, particularly, and you can't help but feel like he's acting like a complete sociopath. I mean, Gerard Butler did a pretty solid job in the first film, and Mike Banning was a decent action character, but in this one, he just comes off as kind of being, yeah, a bit of a sociopath. Like, he really loves stabbing people a lot in this sequel. I mean, even more so, I was like, okay, man, you know, calm down with the stabbings, you know? But in a way, like, I guess I just found the film just, I just found the film just real, like I said, in bad taste, and it just really rubbed me the wrong way. And it definitely is a film that has a bit of a political agenda. Whether it's deliberate or not, I can't say for certain, but it's definitely a film that's like, sort of, does have some, like, at least for me watching it, it have felt like, you know, it had some agenda with it. And usually, and, you know, that's fair to say, action films had that kind of thing all the time, particularly in the 80s with, you know, sort of all the Cold War stuff and like that. But I don't know, it just, usually it doesn't bother me, and I'm just thinking, haha, whatever. But I don't know, for some reason it just really bothered me in this film, and it just, like I said, really rubbed me the wrong way. And I just found it just, at times, the film felt like exploitive, xenophobic as well, and it just felt, and the characters are incredibly underdeveloped. Like, we get a bit of, like, I will give the film credit, at least it tried to delve into sort of the motivations behind the villains and why they're doing what they're doing, but I kind of wish there was a bit more to that, maybe putting sort of a bit more of a human face in that regard, like still keeping them as evil bad guys, but sort of flesh them out a little bit more, so they're just more than, you know, your stock villain characters. And even then, like, even the good guys in this film, other than Aaron Eckhart and Gerard Butler, are so underdeveloped and just, yeah, and completely wasted. Like, and they just all looked bored and just were basically just seemed like just there for the paycheck. I guess in terms of positives, like if I had any positives about the film, I would say at least when it got to the third act, that's where the film got a little bit better and sort of more of the action stuff happened. Like, there actually is two really good action set pieces in that, like towards the end of the second act and in the third act, that I actually thought were quite well done. And there's one in particular that's kind of shot in a way that it seemingly looks like it's done in one long continuous take. It's obvious to see that it was shot at different times and just edited together to look like one continuous scene, but it was actually pretty well done. And there's another scene a bit earlier before that where Gerard Butler and Aaron Eckhart's characters are at a safe house, and sort of the bad guys are breaking in, and I actually thought that was a pretty well done scene as well. So overall, with Olympus has, sorry, London Has Fallen, I apologise. I mean, despite some pretty solid and well done action set pieces, I just found it such a film. This is a film that just did not work for me at all. And if anything, it's actually worse than Olympus Has Fallen. And the film just left it. By the end of it, I just felt feeling very uneased and just had a bit of a bad taste in my mouth just after watching this film. And it's just, yeah, so, yep, so that's it. So if I had to give London Has Fallen a rating, I give it 1.5. It's a really crappy sequel, and it just feels forced, exploitive, xenophobic, that in a way kind of feels like it's a film that's kind of made for the Donald Trump crowd. So I'm sure a lot of action fans out there might still enjoy it anyway. Like I said, there is decent action, but for me it just didn't work. So yep, that's the end of my video review of London Has Fallen. I hope you guys all enjoyed it, and I'll see you all later. See you, everyone.